Watch somebody walk into a room where they don't yet know anyone. Notice the small things, not the obvious ones. They stay near the edge of the room and they let a couple of conversations go by before they say anything. Somebody asks them a question and they answer it, and they answer it a little short. They aren't being unfriendly. They're figuring out something. They're figuring out how much of themselves they can say out loud in here. Imagine, I imagine most of us know how to do that. A new job, new school, a family dinner where you're the newcomer, a new neighborhood, a new church. Somewhere, everybody else knows one another already. Some people are very good at it though. Quick, accurate, almost automatic. And usually there's a reason for that. You got good at it because you needed to. At some point, you said the true thing in the wrong room, and you watched somebody's face change, and you didn't forget it. So people learn to bring an edited version of their life into a room. Not a lie, edited. Not much here, not that part, not yet, maybe never. And surprise, that happens in church too. There are people who walk into churches already making those decisions before they ever sit down. Between the front door and the pew is plenty of time, asking themselves, how much of my life can I say out loud in here? Is there room in this place for the doubt I can't argue myself out of? Can I say the name of the person I love the way anybody else says the name of a person they love and have the conversation just keep going? And I'm not going to stand up and pretend that caution came out of nowhere. Some people learned it in the Catholic churches and from other Catholics. That's part of the real history of this global church, and it isn't something a priest can talk anybody out of by saying the words welcome loudly enough. Trust isn't owed to us, and it doesn't automatically come with a collar or any of the vestments. In Matthew's gospel, Jesus asks his disciples a question. Who do people say that the Son of Man is? The disciples have answers ready because the answers are going around. They say John the Baptist, Elijah, Jeremiah, one of the prophets. Now those aren't insults. They're honorable guesses made from the outside based on what people have already heard and seen. Then Jesus asks, but who do you say that I am? Simon Peter says it. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus tells him that he did not simply arrive at that on his own. He says, flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my heavenly Father. There are plenty of answers going around. Simon Peter, however, has been given something more. Then Jesus says to him, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah. What people are saying is not the deepest thing of the gospel. God knows more than the crowd knows. That is also true for us too. Whatever has been said about you, whatever people assume about you, whatever you have decided is safe to mention and safe to leave out, God already knows the whole life you brought into church with you. And here's the thing I most want you to hear. Before anybody in a church welcomes you, you already belong to God. Not after, before. Before the greeters at the door, before any of the clergy, before anybody here has heard one word of your story, you are God's own creature, made in God's image. And none of us made that true when you walk into a church door. And I love that this community here that works hard at welcome, and we need to keep working at it. But when we welcome someone, we aren't introducing God into their life. God was there before we were. So perhaps we shouldn't give ourselves so much credit. At St. Austin Catholic Church, we're served by the Paulist Fathers, and part of our mission has long been to serve people who are searching, people who have been away from the church, people who aren't sure there is a place for them here. And I don't want to say that to congratulate ourselves, but it does, however, give us something to live up to. And people learn what kind of community this is in very ordinary means. sometimes in the minutes before Mass starts or in the moments after Mass ends. Somebody tells you something you were nervous to say and your face answers before your mouth does. Or somebody came to Mass alone and afterward they're still standing by themselves while everybody else is talking. The moments you show people those kind of moments show people what kind of community we are. They can help someone believe what we preach about God, or they can make our words about God harder to believe. So I want to say this directly to anyone who knows what it is to be cautious in church. You do not have to prove your worth to God before you walk into a church. If there's a part of your life you have learned to keep quiet in church, you don't have to keep it from God. You can pray with doubts. You can pray. You don't have to be the role model believer to be here. And if something was said to you in a church that made you feel like you had to leave part of your life outside of the door, I'm not telling you to forget it. Whatever that experience did to your trust in church, it did not change your worth before God. You still belong to God. So if you walked into a church today wondering whether this includes you, it does. Maybe you're new to a parish. Maybe you've been going to church for years and you still watch what you say. Those of us who already call St. Austin home show what kind of place this is by what happens when someone entrusts to us enough to tell their story a little bit about themselves. I want more for this community than open doors and friendly words. I want people to discover that they don't have to keep editing themselves around us. I want people to be able to talk about their lives and without watching for the moment somebody's face changes. I want people to be able to pray here, ask questions here, grow here, and know that we will keep walking with them. Before anyone welcomes us, we already belong to God. And so, if you're wondering whether this includes you, it does. You belong here. And those of us who already know this place as home have the privilege of making sure that our life together tells you the same thing.